Hey, what's up? It's Madeline Puckette, and this is winefolly.com, where we learn by drinking. Do you see this stuff in my glass right now? Is there anything more undeniably awesome than the color of rosé wine? I remember getting into rosé wine. This was post White Zinfandel phase. I started learning about the rosé wine from France. In France, they've had a long tradition of producing rosé. You could even say the early Bordeaux wines, called Claret back in the day, were actually more of a rosé color than they were a deep red wine. But it was really the rosé wines from the southern part of France along the French Riviera that really got me into this wine. Rosé, despite how gluggable it is actually a pretty complicated wine to produce. There are many methods involved with making rosé and many different types of grapes. You can have a rosé of Sangiovese, of Syrah, of Pinot Noir, of Tempranillo, and they all taste a little bit different. So let's get into two wines produced in two different methods and learn what the pink stuff is all about. The first wine we have sort of in homage to the Provence winemaking method called the Maceration method. In this method, grapes are picked when they're about ready for rosé wine production, then they get squeezed with the skins for a short period of time. The skins of grapes are where the color comes from, so the less time that juice spends with the skin, the less red that wine will become. At the right moment, when the wine has reached its perfect color, it's immediately taken off of the skins and finishes fermentation in a vat, much like white wine. This maceration method is how they produce rosé wines in Provence, but it's also used for rosé wines all over the world. This wine is an example of that. It is from Washington State, produced with two grape varieties, Grenache and Cinsault, which are also grown in Provence. On the nose, this wine is big and fruity, super almost sweet fruity with more really ripe peach notes, a little bit of cantaloupe, I'd say honeydew melon, lemon zest, sort of sweet lemon zest. Let's give it a taste. On the palate, this wine is dry with just a subtle note of fruitiness. Much more in those sort of green melon notes on the palate, so I'm getting a little leaner style here. There is some acidity, and I'm definitely feeling some of that alcohol come through in the back of my palate. This wine, I'd say for dry rosé and that Provence style, it's a lot bigger than the wines that I find in Provence, and pretty awesome, honestly. The other way of producing rosé is a little bit contentious, but I like it nonetheless, and that's called the Sonia Method. In this method, grapes are picked for red wine. They go into a tank with the skins and the juice, and a portion of that juice is strained off and made into rosé wine. You'll find wineries that produce Sonia Method rosé, usually only about 10% of their production goes into rosé, because the rest, that 90% left over, stays with the skins and produces red wines. This makes an increasingly concentrated red wine, but also tends to produce pretty concentrated rosés. The reason this method is contentious is because rosé winemakers complain that the Sonia Method is not really made for rosé, it's supposed to be made for red wine, but I've had Sonia Method rosés that are fantastic, and this is an example of one of those wines. If you're familiar with this region, you probably know of the great red wines of Barolo and Barbaresco, and this here is using the same grape, but making a Sonia Method rosé. Color-wise, I'd say this is a lot richer in color than the Maceration Method wine. On the nose, super fruity again, a little bit leaner in its style, maybe with more notes of wild strawberries, fresh strawberries, almost like a freshly cut nectarine, and then subtle notes of anise. Let's give it a taste. On the palate, I would say the acidity level in this wine is even a little bit more lifted than the last wine. The texture on the mid to back palate has a subtle bitterness, which makes this wine taste a little bit drier. And alcohol-wise, it seems to be a little bit lighter than the last wine. 13%, yeah, 14.4 over there. So This wine, Sonia Method, Sonia tends to produce a richer, stronger, more bold, and less acidic wine, and yet this wine goes against all of that logic. So I would say, before you make your judgment call, taste the wines and don't judge them by their color. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson today. If you want to learn more about wine, definitely subscribe. That's winefolly.com/subscribe. We give away a Wine 101 guide for free. And if you want to get serious, definitely pick up a copy of the Wine Folly book, a James Beard Award winner. All right, y'all, what are you drinking? What should I be drinking next? Peace out.